It was the fall of 1817 when John Bell and his family moved to a secluded farm in the rural town of Adams, Tennessee. John Bell, a prosperous farmer, had dreams of establishing a peaceful life for his wife, Lucy, and their children. The property was vast, the land fertile, and the location away from the noise of the growing frontier settlements. But little did they know, this seemingly idyllic place would soon become the stage for one of the most terrifying haunting legends in American history. The Bell family had barely settled in when they began to hear strange noises at night, soft rapping sounds that echoed through their cabin's walls, faint whispering voices, and an occasional scratching noise, like fingernails scraping against wood. At first, they tried to dismiss the oddities. Living on a farm meant encountering wildlife and strange sounds at night, right? But what began as isolated occurrences quickly grew more intense. The children, including the Bell's daughter Betsy, claimed they heard voices, low and guttural at first, calling out their names. Betsy, only 11 at the time, was the most affected. She often heard the whispers as she sat alone in her room or played near the barn. But there was something strange about the voice. It didn't seem human. One night, John Bell himself heard the unmistakable sound of something scratching against his door. He opened it to find nothing, yet the noise continued. At first he thought it was some kind of animal, but when the scratching moved through the walls and floorboards, he became worried. Over the next few nights, it became clear that this wasn't an ordinary phenomenon. One evening, while walking near the barn, John Bell was startled by the sudden appearance of an enormous black cat-like creature. It appeared out of nowhere, its eyes glowing in the moonlight. But as John approached it, the creature vanished. Puzzled but still skeptical, John Bell brushed it off as a figment of his imagination. But it was becoming clear that something was terribly wrong. Soon after, the Bell family began to hear the distinct sound of chains rattling and heavy footsteps, like someone pacing back and forth across their floorboards. Each night the disturbances grew louder, more persistent, and far more unnerving. Then came the voice. It wasn't like any voice the Bells had ever heard. At first it seemed to be a soft whisper, only audible to those closest to the walls. But within days, it grew in strength and clarity. The voice introduced itself chillingly as the witch. It claimed to be the spirit of a woman named Kate Batts, a local resident who was known to have had a fierce temper and an even more notorious reputation. She was said to have cursed the Bell family because of a long-standing feud with John. As weeks went by, the Bell family became increasingly terrorized. Objects began to move of their own accord. Chairs would tip over, dishes and tools would fly across the room, and doors would slam open and shut without explanation. One evening, Betsy Bell was sitting by the hearth playing with her dolls when she felt a sudden invisible force yank her hair. She screamed, but when her parents rushed in, there was no sign of anyone, except for Betsy, who was in tears, her hair tangled from the pull. John Bell, a once strong and confident man, was becoming visibly sick, debilitated by a mysterious force. The witch's voice grew more mocking and threatening, making cruel remarks about his health and his family. The Bell family's fear was palpable, but they couldn't explain what was happening to them. No one in the nearby town believed them. Some thought they were simply imagining things, but others began to take notice of the strange happenings at the Bell farm. One of the most bizarre incidents involved the family's beloved dog. After hearing odd howls coming from the barn, the family sent the dog to investigate. But the next morning, the dog returned to the house with a wild look in its eyes and a strange, unexplainable scar on its back. It would never approach the barn again, and it was clear to the family that whatever haunted them was not something that could be easily dismissed. Desperate, the Bell family sought help from their neighbors and the local community. Word spread quickly, and soon the farm became the talk of the region. Skeptics dismissed the haunting as a figment of superstition or an overactive imagination, but things were growing so terrifying that even the town's most skeptical residents couldn't ignore the disturbing reports. Local men were sent to investigate. Among them was a well-known medium, James Johnston, who had some experience with the supernatural. He brought with him a group of men who tried to communicate with the entity. The voice responded with more clarity than anyone could have imagined. It identified itself as the ghost of Kate Batts and made its intentions clear. It had come to seek revenge on John Bell for an old wrong. The witch was not satisfied with merely tormenting the Bells. It wanted to make them suffer in more personal ways. One evening, when John Bell was at his weakest, bedridden and unable to move, the witch's voice became more menacing. It mocked his misery and even told him that his death was imminent. The voice cackled, promising that John Bell would die soon, and that his suffering was only the beginning. On December 20th, 1820, John Bell died. His death was sudden and mysterious, as though a shadow had taken him. It was reported that the witch's voice could be heard laughing loudly as the family discovered his lifeless body. But the strange events didn't end with his death. The witch continued to haunt the Bell family for a time, but soon after John's death, the disturbances began to subside. The family, after years of torment, left the farm, but the legend of the Bell Witch lived on. Rumors of strange occurrences in the area persisted. The land where the Bell farm once stood became a place of fear and fascination, with occasional sightings of strange lights in the sky or eerie sounds that couldn't be explained. Some claim that the witch still haunts the area, while others believe her spirit moved on with John Bell's death. Today, the Bell Witch remains one of the most famous hauntings in American folklore. Many researchers and paranormal investigators have ventured to the Bell farm, seeking answers to the unsettling events that took place in the early 1800s. The exact nature of the haunting still remains a mystery, whether it was truly the spirit of Kate Batts, a supernatural force, or perhaps something even darker, we may never know. Some have speculated that the Bell Witch might have been a demonic entity rather than a human ghost, given the malevolent nature of its actions. The Bell Witch legend is more than just a ghost story. It is a chilling reminder that sometimes there are forces in this world that we cannot explain, forces that can twist reality and invade our lives in the most terrifying ways. Even now, visitors who travel to Adams, Tennessee, speak of strange occurrences near the old Bell farm, as if the haunting still lingers in the air, waiting for its next victim. Whether or not you believe in the Bell Witch, the story of John Bell and his family has etched itself into the fabric of American history. It is a tale of fear, mystery, and the power of the unknown, one that has haunted the imaginations of those who have heard it for over 2 centuries. The Bell Witch haunting remains a testament to the eerie and inexplicable. The terror that the Bell family faced and the unanswered questions surrounding it still send shivers down the spine of anyone who hears the tale. The story endures, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most horrifying things aren't always visible. Some things, like the Bell Witch, exist in the space between the living and the dead.